Ancient India gave the world mathematics, surgery, philosophy, and some of the most sophisticated civilizations in human history. It also gave certain people some of the most miserable working lives ever recorded. Today, we are doing something different. Instead of one bad job, we are doing five. 5 real occupations from ancient India. 5 real people who woke up every morning, went to work, and had a genuinely terrible time. We take the worst lives in history and ask one simple question: how bad was it really? Let's find out. Number 5. The Chandala. You are a Chandala. And before we get into the job, let us talk about what that actually means, because the job itself is only half the story. The other half is everything that surrounds it. You handle the dead. Specifically, you handle the bodies that nobody else will touch. You work at the cremation ground. You prepare corpses for last rites. You carry them. You burn them. You deal with everything that happens to a human body after death. And if you have ever thought about what that actually involves, you will understand immediately why this is on the list. But here is what makes this particular job extraordinary in its awfulness. It is not just the work. It is the position. In ancient Indian society, the Chandala occupied a place so low it was considered below the entire caste structure entirely. Not at the bottom of the ladder. Below the ladder. Outside it. You lived outside the city walls. You could not enter the town during the day. When you walked through public spaces, which you sometimes had to, you were required to announce your presence. In some accounts, this meant carrying something that made a sound, a clapper, a warning system, so that everyone nearby could move away before you contaminated the space simply by being in it. Your shadow. People were concerned about your shadow. You could not use the same wells. You could not eat in the same places. You could not touch anyone else's food. The items you touched were considered ritually impure. The work you did, work that was essential, work that needed doing, work that every society needs, made you an outcast for doing it. And it was hereditary. You did not choose this job. You were born into it. Your children would be born into it. Their children would be born into it. The work followed the bloodline whether anyone wanted it to or not. So yes, handling corpses all day in the heat, that is bad. But being completely excluded from human society for doing it, that is something else entirely. Number 4. The war elephant handler. You are a mahout. And on paper, this sounds almost impressive. You work with elephants. You ride them. You are part of the military. You have a specific skilled role that took years to learn. In practice, you are sitting on top of a 4-ton animal that has been trained for war, which means it has been trained to charge, to crush, to destroy, and to panic. And you are the person responsible for making sure it does the first 3 and not the 4th. War elephants were genuinely terrifying weapons. They broke infantry lines. They scattered cavalry. They carried archers into battle on howdahs strapped to their backs. Armies that faced elephant charges had a simple tactical problem: there is no easy way to stop 4 tons of animal moving at speed toward you. But here is the thing about training an animal for battle. The animal does not always cooperate. Elephants panicked. They turned. They ran the wrong direction. They trampled their own side. And when a war elephant decided it was done with the battle, no amount of skill from the mahout on top was going to change that immediately. The mahout's job in those moments was to regain control, to redirect an enormous panicking animal in the middle of an active battle, surrounded by weapons, arrows, fire, and noise specifically designed to terrify large animals. And if control could not be regained quickly enough, some ancient accounts describe a final option: a spike, driven into the back of the elephant's skull, a last resort to stop the animal from killing the wrong people. The mahout who had raised this elephant, trained this elephant, ridden this elephant into battle, was sometimes the person who had to use it. Between battles, you were responsible for the animal's care, its food, its health, its temperament. You lived with it. You knew it better than almost anyone. And then you rode it into chaos and hoped today was not the day it decided enough was enough. Number 3. The gold washer. You are panning for gold in ancient India. And this sounds almost romantic until you understand what it actually involves. In the river valleys of ancient India, gold was found in riverbeds, in rock deposits, in places that required either standing in freezing water for extended periods or descending into mines. If you were a gold washer, you were doing the former. Day after day, you stood in rivers, moving sediment, sifting through material, looking for flakes of gold small enough that you could work an entire day and end up with almost nothing visible. The cold was constant. The current worked against you. The yields were unpredictable. You had no way of knowing before you started whether today would produce anything at all. If you were working in the mines instead, and some people were, the situation was considerably worse. Ancient mining was dark, confined, and structurally unreliable in ways that would make a modern safety inspector simply leave and not come back. Tunnels collapsed, gases accumulated. The tools were primitive, and the warning systems were essentially non-existent. And who benefited from the gold? The treasury. The court. The people who commissioned the jewelry and the temple decorations and the royal objects that historians find centuries later and call magnificent. The person who stood in the river for a decade to produce the raw material is not remembered. The gold object is. Number 2. The royal taster. We have done a full video on this one, so we will keep it brief, but it absolutely belongs on this list. Your job is to eat the king's food before the king eats it. If the food is poisoned, you find out first. If the food is fine, you go home and do it again tomorrow. Every single meal. Every day. For as long as you hold the position. Royal assassination by poison was not a rare theoretical concern in ancient India. It was a documented, discussed, and genuinely attempted method of removing rulers. The Arthashastra, one of ancient India's most important political texts, dedicates serious discussion to poisoning methods and how to detect them, which means the job of royal taster was not ceremonial. It was practical. The risk was real. The consequence of getting it wrong was not losing your job. It was losing your life in a particularly unpleasant way during what was, until that moment, a perfectly ordinary lunch. You could not refuse the job. You could not phone it in. You could not take a day off and send someone else. Every meal required your presence and your full commitment to the possibility that today might be the day. Number 1. The street sweeper. Specifically, in the context of ancient Indian cities, the person responsible for cleaning waste from public spaces and drainage systems. The cities were real, and they were impressive. Ancient cities like Mohenjo-daro and later urban centers had drainage infrastructure that was genuinely advanced for their time. Which is wonderful. Until you think about who maintained it. This work was caste-assigned. Like the Chandala, it was hereditary. You did not apply for this position. You did not choose it from available options. You were born into a family that did this work, and so you did this work, and your children would do this work. The actual job involved cleaning drains and sewers by hand, in temperatures that made outdoor physical work miserable, with tools that were not sophisticated, in conditions that produced diseases that ancient medicine could not reliably treat. And then you went home, to the part of the settlement designated for people who did your kind of work. Separate. Outside. Away. The city functioned because of this work. Disease spread more slowly because of this work. The impressive drainage systems that archaeologists marvel at required this work to operate. And the people who did it were considered the least valued people in the entire social structure. So, 5 jobs. 1 conclusion. Ancient India produced extraordinary things. Architecture, philosophy, mathematics, medicine. It also built systems that made sure certain people paid the price for everyone else's civilization. Always at the bottom. Always essential. Always forgotten. History remembered the buildings. History remembered the rulers. History remembered the gold. It did not always remember the people who made those things possible. Subscribe. We drop videos every week. And be grateful that your job, whatever it is, does not involve announcing your own presence so other people can walk away from you.